that document, I happened to help work on the schools. We assessed every school in the state of Idaho. That was what was approved for us to give the superintendents in every district an idea of what it would take to adjust their schools to good status. And so this particular rating sheet you have here is weighted. And so how that works is, if you're looking at foundations, for instance, you can see that on your scoring sheet, 12 is good, whereas molding, for instance, is down in there is relatively a minor thing, so that trim is worth 2. So the higher the point scale, the more it's going to cost, because you're going to invert it when you're done. So we score the building, we come up with a 90, which means that subtracted from 100, 10% of that building needs to be upgraded. Or if they get a 70, 30% of the building needs to be upgraded. So here's how you're going to complete that form. And I'm going to get 2 of these on 2 buildings, not this building, 2 buildings that are 5 years of age or older. And I have it in your schedule, you know, that you guys go out and do those time-wise. I don't care when you do them. I put down there that the first one should be due first part of April and then right after that, but knock them both out earlier if you want. I don't care. You're going to email me back this form as an attachment, as well as the second sheet of this, which is the cost portion, and you'll find that on the Angel to be able to do that. So
Is that one?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's it.
The cost sheet.
Let me walk you
It says
through.
cost sheet.
Let me walk you through the first sheet here. So how you're going to do this, and I'll pass this around, is you're going to take your sheet in your BCEF and circle those, or in this case, you can do it electronically if you desire. That's what this person did, and leaving the number in. And then you're going to use your scoring sheet, which is, there's a sheet. Let me borrow one of those. Nope, the big long one.
Oh, I've got it right here. This one?
Yep, thank you. There's a scoring sheet that's part of this thing, which is this one you'll turn into me. This is a scoring sheet. So you're going to see by category. So if Robin did her building and she turned out that she got a 29, she's going to look on this scoring sheet. This is just like, you know, when you guys give a test, 90 to 100 is an A. This gives you the same thing. So 29 said that was good. So under every category, when you turn in to me there, you're going to say under the exterior there, if you're looking at this sheet, what did that rate? Good, fair, poor. And you'll get that off of this sheet right here. So we have 4 different parts of the building. We have the exterior, the interior, the mechanical, and the safety. If you study those YouTubes of me, I explain to you very carefully how you do that.
Yeah.
And I explain how you mark those. So if you're uncertain, run them again. And then
Those are very clear.
run them a
Yeah.
3rd time if you have to, because those are things, if I didn't do it electronically, we would do in a building, and I would go through with you the same thing I showed you electronically. But those are good, those are done, we think, thorough enough you can get it. So you're going to rate every one of these categories on your score sheet here, as it explains, and mark them proportionally. If I get your score sheets early and they're only half filled out, I'm going to send it back to you and say, you know, complete it fully. Making sure that, one, you add all the columns up, that you mark every one of the columns, whether they're good, bad, or poor, and what their scores are. And then when you're all said down here, there's an adjusted and unadjusted, and I explain the difference there. If air conditioning is required, for instance, then you subtract the in or out, and you're done. Then the second sheet is your costs. Once you're through, and when you go to a building and find one 5 years, the thing you need to do is find out when it was built and how much square footage. Now, someone asked me the question about a building that's been added on to. I would avoid those buildings, because what you have is 2 different buildings. You have an old building and then you get a new building, and so technically to do that, you got to be skilled enough in this that you're doing averages. And when we did this initially for the state of Idaho, all of us trained at Moscow High School, which was a real challenge, and we had to be within 10% of each other on scores, or we were not valid. And so, you know, I did this with my U of I class. I'd have you guys score it, and then if someone had a 90 and someone had an 80, you weren't within 10%, we'd score it again and find out, what did you see the other person didn't. You're going to do these, and you can do them as groups, except that each one of you do your own sheets, both of your calculations, and make sure that you do comments, and you get this well enough that you feel okay about doing it. This isn't an easy thing to do. you'll go in and you'll need a maintenance person to walk with you, and then you won't have to get up on the roof. You can ask them, is that been redone or not, and trust their judgment. But this gives you an appreciation for what you do in a building, and then from this point on, hopefully when you walk into a school, you're going to look at things you look at here. You're going to look up and see how the roof decks are, how the stains are, you know, if they're high vaulted ceilings, if they're not. You're going to look at windows and see if they're double paned or single pane. From this exercise itself, when you do 2 of these, should give you a new appreciation for facilities. This is a good, these guys wouldn't like this thing because they do it technically, but for us non-construction type of people, this is a little barometer for us. Same thing, you know, before we go to a doctor, we take our temperature. If our temperature's high, then we know, you know, too high, we know something's wrong. We get into our car and it doesn't heat up, well, then we take it, you know. We're going to do this as a cursory, and then we'll turn it to these guys and say, okay, you tell us whether we are good, bad, or different. I say don't give this to your administrator of the building, because you could alarm them if you came up and said it scored 70. As a superintendent, he would look at that and say, you mean 30% of my building isn't good? And then, you know, maybe it's supposed to be an 80. So you're not skilled at this enough. This is something that's dangerous if you put this in someone's hands. So I say, recommend, don't give it to them. You explain to them you're doing it for me for a class, and that it isn't anything official. You're not going to give it to any of their patrons or anywhere else, because that can be an alarming thing too if this gets out that Angie came in and scored her buildings are all poor buildings. What have you done, Mr. Superintendent, to upgrade those? That they don't need those headaches. So be cautious, and I don't want them calling me saying, Rich, what's going on? Because I'll cover for you, but on the same token, we don't need that done. So the second part of that is pretty self-explanatory again on the YouTube, but you're going to take your score and you're going to multiply it by a cost factor, and then you're going to come out on what the total cost to upgrade it is. I'll pass this one around. You can see how they did it, because that basically is what's done. Any questions on this? This is a process you're going to have to do, you know, thoroughly. Do it as groups, but don't get a building that has been added onto once or twice, because that's too complex for you. There's a lot of buildings right in this area that are 5 years of age or older, and you can do as a group. Robin's building, if you want to visit with her about doing that on a Saturday and walking through it. Usually you figure it's going to take you about 2 to 3 hours. Initially, your first one may take you 3 or 4, but when we were paid to do this thing, we had 2 hours to get a building done, and we went at a hard, fast pace because we knew what we were looking for. But initially, when I did that walkthrough on that video for you, that was about a 4-hour process of, going through that and explaining what is done. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email on it. So anything further on BCEFs? Okay. The other thing is the project itself, which is down there. The speakers you should have down now. You're doing 2 speakers. That top one is the one of me that you'll find, or if not, do the BCEF one. The second one is today's speaker, which says, I'd have done in April, first part of April. Do it immediately if you can, and attach it and email it to me.
Can I ask one question
Yep.
on that? Doug, what's your last name?
My name is Matt.
Yes, I got Matt Newton.
Oh,
Doug.
he's right there.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Where do you come from?
Nichols, thank you so much.
And then under your your project, you're going to be doing a project that has something to do with any phase of facilities that you want to look into. There is a project approval form that requires you to send that in to me first. You'll find that under the project. It basically is a sheet saying, here's what I attempt to do, here's my subject, here's what and I already got one of those from someone, and I put it back. Who got theirs in already? I got yours back saying, here's some things I want you to include to make it a little more well-defined. And then you're good to go with it. And I say into that how long it needs to be. It's something that if you're working on a project such as Robin may be doing an expansion of her playground, and for her she's going to research, okay, how much ground is really good, what sort of things are safe in a playground, what aren't, what's the capability of supervision on a playground, you know, for sight view? Do I fence the playground? Do I not fence the playground? Do I leave a gate to let people in?